You've been conditioned to think competence is the ultimate workplace currency. That if you're right often enough, smart enough, sharp enough, someone will notice and reward you accordingly. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Your brilliant ideas might be sabotaging your career while the person with mediocre suggestions gets promoted. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll understand exactly why the workplace operates more like a complex social network than anyone wants to admit. Let's start with something that'll make you squirm a bit. Remember that meeting where you corrected your boss in front of everyone? You were factually right. The numbers he cited were wrong. His logic had holes, and you had receipts. You felt that little dopamine hit when you delivered your correction. Maybe even got a few nods from colleagues. But then something shifted in the room. The temperature dropped. Your boss smiled tightly, said something like, "Interesting perspective," and moved on. 3 months later, you're still in the same position while someone who laughs at his jokes just got a team lead role. Here's what actually happened in that moment. You weren't just correcting information. You were challenging perceived authority in front of an audience. And human beings, for all our evolution and fancy job titles, are still wired to protect social hierarchy and psychological safety. Your boss's brain didn't register helpful correction. It registered a potential threat to status. That dynamic doesn't care about quarterly reports or logical arguments. It cares about who is trusted and connected within the group. The first reason being like Trump's being right is painfully simple. People protect those they trust when resources are scarce. When budget cuts come, when restructuring happens, when there's one promotion and 3 candidates, decision makers aren't always pulling out spreadsheets to objectively measure competence. They're having private conversations about cultural fit and team dynamics. Translation: they're asking themselves who they want to work with, collaborate with, and trust. You might have saved the company 6 figures with your process improvement, but if you made 3 people feel stupid while doing it, guess what? You're the improvement that gets processed right out the door. The second reason cuts even deeper. Information flow in organizations doesn't follow the org chart. It follows social networks and relationships. The people who get promoted aren't necessarily the ones doing the best work. They're the ones who hear about new projects before they're posted. They know which initiatives the VP is quietly concerned about before the memo goes out. And how do they know? Because people talk to their trusted colleagues first. When you're likable, you're part of those informal networks, even when you're not literally in a room. People mention things over coffee, during casual chats, or in passing hallway conversations. Meanwhile, the technically correct but socially awkward person often finds out about opportunities too late to act strategically. The third reason is about energy management. Being right is exhausting. Maintaining accuracy requires constant vigilance, staying updated, checking sources, and defending positions with evidence. That consumes enormous cognitive resources. Meanwhile, the likable person invests energy into building relationships, reading the room, and understanding emotional undercurrents that actually drive decisions. That emotional insight often matters more than being technically flawless. Here's a truth nobody tells you about workplace decisions. They're influenced by emotions, then rationalized logically. First impressions, trust, and how someone makes you feel often guide choices, and logic is applied afterward to justify them. Your perfectly logical argument lands in an environment where an emotional judgment has already been formed, making it easy for your intervention to be perceived as difficult or disruptive. The fourth reason is about memory and perception. Human memory isn't a video recording. It's a story we tell ourselves, shaped by emotion. People remember how you made them feel more than the technical correctness of your ideas. If you made them feel inadequate, that impression lingers. Years later, they may not recall that you were right about the product launch timing. They'll recall the discomfort you triggered. Meanwhile, someone who was wrong but kind, people remember feeling good around them, which shapes future opportunities. The fifth reason is the one that stings the most. Being right can threaten people's sense of competence, while being likable can enhance it. When you correct someone, even gently, it implicitly communicates they were wrong, triggering defensiveness. But when you're warm, engaging, and guide someone subtly toward the right solution, they feel smart for figuring it out themselves, and they feel good about you too. So what does this mean for you? It doesn't mean you have to become fake or abandon your standards. It means examining why being right hasn't always paid off the way you expected. Maybe invest some energy into understanding the emotional and social landscape of your workplace. The truly sophisticated move is learning to be both. Write about the things that matter while being likable enough that people actually want to hear it. Here's your uncomfortable takeaway. You've probably been operating under the assumption that competence alone would be recognized and rewarded. But workplaces are multiplayer games, and you've been playing them like they're single player. The people who succeed aren't just good at their jobs. They're adept at the metagame of relationships, trust, and social capital. You don't have to like it, but you do have to decide whether you want to keep being frustrated by it or start working with it.